So back in 2007, I went on my first mission trip outside the United States. And I got on a plane with 15 people that I didn't know. And we went to a place in Brazil called Fortaleza. And I spent 2 weeks working in an orphanage with children who had been rescued from some of the most violent and criminal, drug-infested slums in the world. And I was so nervous about going, but then when I got back to the United States, I realized that was one of the most incredible experiences of my life, and I didn't want to travel halfway around the world to feel like that again. So I started volunteering in an organization called Mobile Loaves and Fishes. And Mobile Loaves and Fishes was started right here in Austin, Texas, by a man named Alan Graham. And its purpose is to provide food, clothing, and dignity to people who are living on the street and to under-resourced people in local communities. Austin has a population of about 2,100 homeless people that have been counted. And to get counted, that means they've had to go into a shelter or maybe gotten some medical benefits somewhere or gone to a kitchen. But I believe that Austin's homeless population is at least double that, because we have thousands of people that live on the streets of Austin that have been that way in a chronic situation, and they rarely go in and get any kind of medical treatment. They rarely check into a shelter, and they rarely get food from a kitchen anywhere. In the United States, we have over 1 million children that are homeless. And in Austin ISD, they have anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 children that don't have a place to lay their head every night. So to kind of put that in perspective, Lake Travis High School has 2,800 students that go to school here. So for every student that is enrolled in Lake Travis High, there's a student on the streets of Austin that doesn't have a home. Also, in Travis County, we have about 158,000 homes that are considered food insecure. And by food insecure, what that means is they may have a roof over their head or they may be living in some type of shelter, but just like someone that's living on the street, they have no idea day to day where their next meal is coming from. There are a lot of factors that can contribute to homelessness: drug addiction, mental illness, alcohol addiction, a significant loss of income. But Mobile Loaves and Fishes believes that the greatest cause of homelessness is a person's catastrophic loss of family or community. So people living on the street, for whatever reason, have run through their entire network of family and friends that they can turn to keep them from being in that position. Austin has about 15 trucks that go out every night, and the trucks look generally about the same. There's clothing on one side and food on the other. There's about 100 sandwiches. There's apples, oranges, milk, juice, chips. And where the dignity comes in is people come up to the truck and we serve them. We ask them choices. We say, would you like meat and cheese or would you like peanut butter and jelly? Would you like an apple or would you like an orange? What kind of chips would you like? You see, what they need is the sandwich, but what they want is some type of human interaction, someone that will make eye contact with them, that will ask them about their day and make them feel like they're not invisible. As of today, Mobile Loaves and Fishes has handed out over 5 million meals across the United States. But my most favorite thing about MLF is that there are over 20,000 people that volunteer in this organization on a regular basis. You see, I believe that people are good and people want to help other people. But I could put 100 sandwiches in my car and you could put 100 sandwiches in your car, and we may or may not figure out where to go, but once we got there, no one would even know that we had the sandwiches in the car. But the trucks are iconic in their community, and everybody who sees them that needs them knows what purpose they serve, and they know they can get a meal from the truck. And my other favorite thing about Mobile Loaves and Fishes is that you can serve in this organization if you are 4 or if you are 104. If you can hand somebody a cold glass of lemonade or a hot cup of coffee on a cold winter's day, then you can serve in the Mobile Loaves and Fishes organization. Now, I believe as a math teacher that my subject is the most important. As a matter of fact, I think my subject's the only subject that kids need, and it's the one that when they get out of high school, it's the one they're going to use the most. You might say I'm biased, but that doesn't make me wrong. But I also believe this, that there is nothing that I can say or do in my classroom that will empower a student more than when I take them out and show them how it feels and how easy it is to make a difference in someone else's life. I want to tell you a story about something that happened when our family took the truck out a few years ago. My mother-in-law is 81 years old, and she is from a small town in West Texas called Merkel. Merkel has a population of about 2,000 people. It's on I-20, 20 miles west of Abilene, and if you've ever driven to Colorado or New Mexico to go skiing or camping, you drove right through it. If you blinked, you missed it. She, for a long time, was a justice of the peace in Merkel, or otherwise known as the town judge. So at any rate, a few years ago, we decided that we would all come to Austin for the holidays, and it's our family's tradition that when we do stay home for the holidays, that we take the truck out early Christmas morning, and that year was no exception. So we all got up early, we met over at Lake Hills Church, we got the truck ready with everything that's normally on it, and then we also added breakfast burritos and hot Starbucks coffee. I do remember that morning was bitterly cold. So we bundled up, we headed into town, and we went to one of my favorite places to serve. It's a place called Sunken Gardens, and it's down by Zilker Park. And it's one of my favorite places to serve because everybody there is homeless and has been homeless for quite some time. They're chronically homeless. But also, most of the people we serve are in their 20s. And lately, I've seen a lot of high schoolers there, and honestly, I've seen a few middle schoolers lately there as well. So at any rate, we all kind of jump out, we start doing our thing, and I noticed my mother-in-law was a little nervous. I mean, coming from a town of 2,000 people, she'd never done anything like this before. So she was over handing out the food, and then she was kind of over by the coffee, and then she kind of went around by the clothes side, and then eventually she just kind of took a step back and was watching things from the sidelines. Here directly, a young man came walking up to the truck. His name is Damon. We didn't know that then, but we kind of know it now. And anyways, he was talking to my husband, whose name is Chris, and they were over by the coffee, and they talked for quite some time. And eventually, Damon asked Chris, "Where are you from?" And Chris said, "Well, I'm from a small town called Merkel. It's west of Abilene, blah, blah, blah." And then we heard Damon say, "Well, I'm from Merkel too." But to be honest, no one even really batted an eye because, see, even though it was early in the morning, Damon had been hitting a little bit more than the orange juice, and sometimes when people do that, it makes them feel like they're from Merkel, so we just all kind of kept on keeping on. But then, as they talked, my mother-in-law came around the corner of the truck, and Damon made eye contact with her, and he looked at her and he said, "Oh my God, you're the judge." Now, at that point, we all did kind of stop and stare. And you could just feel the electricity in the air, and we knew something remarkable was about to happen. And sure enough, Damon had gotten in a lot of trouble in Merkel. And in her role as a judge, my mother-in-law had really tried to help him out. But things got too hot for him, so he skipped town. He went up to I-20 and he hitched a ride, and whoever he hitched a ride with dropped him off in Austin at a place called Sunken Gardens, where he'd been living on the street, homeless, for over 2 years. No one in his family had seen him, heard from him. They didn't know where he was, how he was doing. I'm sure they wondered if he was even still alive. And so as Chris and Damon continued to talk, it came as no surprise to anybody that Chris had gone to high school with his parents. And it came as even less of a surprise when Joanne saw that she had his mama's number in her phone. And so on that day, on Christmas Day, after having been missing for over 2 years, Damon called his mama on the phone. Even now when I tell this story, it's been a couple years, it's really hard for me to tell it without tearing up because it was an amazing moment. And you might be asking yourself, like, "Oh my gosh, that's crazy. How does the story end? Where is Damon now?" And I got to be honest with you, I have no idea. I could have figured out for sure. You see, my mother-in-law is Facebook friends with him. But I would like to suggest to you this, that I don't know that where Damon is now is even part of the story at all. You see, sometimes I think that we haven't made a difference in someone else's life unless things turn out the way we think they should turn out. If we haven't moved a mountain or if we haven't slain a dragon, then we really haven't done anything at all. But I'm here to tell you we're making it way too hard. You see, I know that Joanne made a difference in Damon's life. She did that before he even left Merkel. But think about the difference she made in his mom's life. Think about how it must have felt for her to wake up that Christmas morning not having seen or heard from her son in 2 years. You know she had to have been thinking about him. And so she looks down because her phone rings, and she sees on the caller ID that it's Joanne, and so she picks it up, and she thinks it's Joanne going to wish her a Merry Christmas, and it's not. It's her son saying, Merry Christmas, Mom. But it gets even better than that. You see, Joanne made a difference in my life. You see, now I'm addicted to moments like that. I want more moments like that in my life, and I don't want to leave them up to chance. I think that we can be intentional about creating them and expecting them in our lives every day. And it only requires 3 things: that we keep an open mind, that we have a humble heart, and that we have the courage to step outside of our comfort zone and serve others in a way that we never have before, like my mother-in-law did. Thank you for letting me tell my story with you.